Good evening. Welcome to QUT Web News. Legislation to allow civil unions for same-sex couples is expected to be introduced to Queensland Parliament tonight. Deputy Premier Andrew Fraser has won a fight to have his private member's bill introduced, despite the opposition saying it's a cheap political trick.
Same-sex couples may soon reach another milestone in their fight for marriage equality. A civil unions bill, expected to be introduced to Parliament tonight, will allow same-sex relationships to be officially registered in Queensland.
We should, in a civil society, not live a fiction through our laws. Our laws should accept the truth of human relationships.
The LNP has made it very clear they will not be supporting the bill.
It is obviously a cheap political stunt.
Political analysts say while the bill is a move forward for same-sex couples, it's only a stepping stone in a longer fight. Federal laws will need to change in order to achieve true marriage equality.
It's quite possible that there's a public majority support out there that is not very vocal, but that might enable the Parliament to carry it through.
According to recent polls, 62% of Australians support same-sex marriage, while 75% believe it will one day be legal.
Gay and lesbian rights advocates think the move sends a strong message to federal politicians to legalise same-sex marriage.
We are another state that's now moved towards civil partnerships, and I think that it reflects the general population of Australia, which is showing that the majority of Australians do support marriage equality.
Andrew Fraser says the bill is likely to be debated before the end of the year. Kimberly McCosker, QUT News.
Queenslanders are being warned to prepare for another wet and possibly wild wet season this summer. The long-range forecast released today by the Bureau of Meteorology is showing a trend towards another La Niña event.
Flood victims have complained about the lack of advance notice of heavy rainfall before the devastation of last summer. And as this wet season draws closer, some people are starting to worry again. The Bureau of Meteorology is determined not to face the same criticisms this year.
The most likely scenario during the coming summer months is a La Niña event, but not nearly as strong as we witnessed last season.
Before January's flooding, the Southern Oscillation Index was plus 25. September 2010 was the wettest month on record, and 90% of weather models predicted the large rainfalls.
This year, when we look at the primary indicators, they're telling a different story, but at the same time, as I said, there's enough showing to suggest that we could be in for a season which is a little bit more active than normal.
With the storm season underway and the cyclone season just around the corner, the Bureau of Meteorology says now is the time for us to prepare.
We can't afford to let our guard down. It's no time to be complacent. We saw last year exactly what a very active wet season can do for Queensland.
Last month, the state government said it wouldn't be lowering water levels in Wivenhoe and North Pine dams before the wet season, but it's now reviewing that decision on the basis of the latest forecast. Meanwhile, residents are being advised to clean up their yards, trim trees and prepare emergency kits, just in case of the worst. Elly, Bradfield, QUT News.
New South Wales Police are investigating whether a bushfire that has burned for 2 days in the Blue Mountains was deliberately lit. Investigators have been closely examining the scene to determine the cause. More than 100 firefighters and a water-bombing helicopter have been used to fight the fire, which started in the early afternoon on Monday. So far, the bushfire has scorched 19 hectares at Katoomba, west of Sydney, and forced the evacuation of the local high school. Several homes sustained damage and a garden shed was destroyed.
Victorian Police have set up a special task force in the hope of finding a Melbourne schoolgirl who disappeared in June. Police believe Siriyakorn Siriboon, nicknamed Bung, was abducted on her way to school.
It's a nightmare parents dread. 13-year-old Bung Siriboon disappeared almost 5 months ago, and police are frustrated with a lack of leads. They hope the formation of Taskforce Puma will prompt someone to come forward.
We're living and believing that she's still alive, she's coming home, and if this helps bring her home, it's good.
Her parents believe their teenage daughter is still alive and will come home to them. Police say they received more than 500 calls since the investigation began, but have no suspects. Jane Buckle, QUT News.
Queensland Police and Emergency Services vehicles are to display stickers of white ribbons on their windscreens in support of a campaign to stop domestic violence. White Ribbon Day aims to raise awareness of the issue and encourage people to speak out.
Domestic violence is a serious issue that affects Australian families across the board. This year, police, fire and ambulance services are joining forces to bring awareness to the problem with the White Ribbon Day campaign. They'll place stickers of white ribbons on their vehicles from November 1, as a reminder that family violence won't be tolerated.
1/3 of Australian women at some stage in their lives will be subject to domestic violence. That's just got to stop.
The first step in stopping the violence is promoting awareness.
By having white ribbons on all our vehicles around our Brisbane city will certainly jolt the memory of people and will allow people to think about it and to take action.
White Ribbon Day aims to promote awareness of violence against women and combat this matter. Police urge anyone who has seen or experienced this type of violence to contact authorities immediately. Data from 2 national surveys has found close to half of all women have experienced violence since the age of 15. Just under 1/3 have experienced physical assault, and almost 1 in 5 have been sexually assaulted.
If there are any issues that they have that they of concern, or they have people they know that are of concern, please by all means contact the Domestic Violence Liaison Officer in their district.
National White Ribbon Day is held on November 25. Natalie Ross, QUT News.
Queen Elizabeth has paid tribute to Australia's war dead. She's laid a wreath of red poppies at the tomb of the unknown soldier during a ceremony at the Australian War Memorial in Canberra.
The Queen and Prince Philip were escorted around the War Memorial by Senator David Finney and retired General Peter Cosgrove, the War Memorial Council chairman. She seemed touched by the moving ceremony in the Hall of Memory. Later, she viewed the Roll of Honour with General Cosgrove. The Queen paused before the names of the Australian soldiers who have died in Afghanistan since 2002, before signing the official guest book. She then met Defence Force personnel in private before heading back outside to greet the waiting crowd. Dozens of school children had come along despite persistent rain and cold winds. Queen Elizabeth collected bouquets of flowers and gifts offered by the young crowd. As usual, the flowers will be given to local nursing homes and hospitals. Tomorrow, the royal couple head to Melbourne to open the new Royal Children's Hospital. Guillaume Benoit, QUT News.
Taronga Zoo has introduced the latest addition to its tiger family with 3 Sumatran cubs, making their long-awaited public appearance today. The 9-week-old trio, known at the moment as numbers 1, 2 and 3, came out to play with their mum Jumala. Jumala was born at Taronga Zoo in 2003 as part of a breeding program to increase the number of the critically endangered tigers. The cubs will eventually be sent to other zoos around the world as part of the global breeding program. There are just 400 Sumatran tigers left in the wild.
Now to sports. And in the United States, the Texas Rangers are just 1 game away from taking baseball's World Series after winning today's clash in Game 5 against the St. Louis Cardinals.
The Texas Rangers are celebrating their dramatic 4-2 win tonight over the St. Louis Cardinals. Mike Napoli knocked in the winning runs with a bases-loaded double. Game 6 will be played on Wednesday, with Texas a win away from its first World Series title. In tennis, Samantha Stosur will take on Maria Sharapova at the WTA Championships in Istanbul, Turkey. She's never defeated Sharapova, but Stosur is relaxed going into her opening match, still relishing in her US Open victory.
It's amazing how quickly your year can turn around and what doors that can open winning a tournament like the US Open can do. So it's definitely been the absolute highlight of my career.
If results fall her way, Stosur has the chance to climb as high as number 2 in the world. In soccer, the Brisbane Roar trained hard this morning for Friday night's game against the Reds. There's family rivalry between the Vidosage boys. They'll be going head-to-head at Suncorp Stadium.
He's my son. I wish him a great game. I wish he scored 3 goals and they'll lose 6-3.
If the Reds defeat the Roar this Friday night here at Suncorp Stadium, it will bring an end to Brisbane's 31-game winning streak, a record of the most consecutive wins in the Australian A-League. Alicia, Bolton, QUT News.
Time now for a look at the weather, and it was a fine spring day with blue skies all around. Brisbane reached a top of 28 degrees. From our South Bank Skycam, we can see that Brisbane had a mainly fine day. A few clouds did appear around midday, but they disappeared later in the afternoon. Around the nation tomorrow and most of our capitals will see cooler temperatures. Sydney is likely to see temperatures lower than normal for this time of year, with the top of just 19 degrees. Around Queensland, temperatures are starting to climb. It will be a mostly fine across the state with a few late thunderstorms forecast for the north and northwest later in the day. That brings you up to date with the weather. And that's all the news we have for now.
We'll be back with you tomorrow with more QUT news. Goodbye.
Goodbye.